Assalamu alaikum. I'm Dr. Aisha. Today we will be talking about brachial artery. In brachial artery, we will discuss its origin, its course through the arm, its branches, relations in the arm, and its clinicals. So let's start our topic. Brachial artery is the main artery of the arm. It provides the main arterial supply to the arm, and it is basically the continuation of axillary artery. As you can see in this image, we have subclavian artery arising from the heart. At the outer border of first rib, this subclavian artery, it becomes the axillary artery, this one. Axillary artery, as you already know, it extends from the outer border of first rib up to the lower border of teres major muscle at this level. Beyond the lowest margin of teres major muscle, this axillary artery, it continues down in the arm as brachial artery. When this artery enters the arm, this is named as the brachial artery, as the word brachium stands for the arm. Talking about the course of brachial artery, it begins at the inferior border of teres major muscle at this point. At first, it lies just medial to the humerus bone. As you can see here, this is the medial side of the humerus. It begins at the medial side of humerus, where its pulsations are easily palpable in the medial bicipital groove. Medial bicipital groove is a gap or a groove which lies in the upper part of arm on the medial side between biceps and triceps muscle. You can easily palpate the brachial artery in this groove on the medial side of your arm. This brachial artery then descends a bit laterally, passing anterior to the medial supracondylar ridge and trochlea of humerus. It ends in the cubital fossa, this region. The fossa, or a depression which lies in front of the elbow, is termed as cubital fossa. We'll talk about this fossa in detail later on. For now, just remember, this brachial artery, it ends in the cubital fossa opposite the neck of radius. This is the forearm. As you know, forearm has two bones. The lateral bone of the forearm is radius, and medial bone of the forearm is termed as ulna. This brachial artery, it ends opposite to the neck of radius and divides into two terminal branches. This lateral terminal branch of brachial artery is termed as radial artery, and this medial terminal branch of brachial artery is termed as the ulnar artery. This was the course and origin of brachial artery. Here is another image showing the origin of brachial artery. This is the beginning point of brachial artery at the lower border of teres major muscle, and the course of brachial artery through the arm. This is the site of bifurcation of brachial artery at the level of neck of radius. This is the radial artery, and this is the ulnar artery. Now let's talk about the relations of brachial artery in the arm. Here is an image showing relations of brachial artery with various structures in the arm. As you can see, brachial artery, it runs downwards and laterally from the medial side of the arm up to the front of elbow. It is superficial throughout its extent. Let us talk about its anterior relations first of all. As you can see in this image, in the middle part of the artery, it is covered by the median nerve. This is the median nerve, which is crossing the artery anteriorly from lateral to the medial side, which means the median nerve lies on the lateral side of the brachial artery in its upper part. In the middle part of the artery, median nerve comes anterior to it, and in the lower part of the artery, median nerve becomes medial structure of the artery. It comes on the medial side of the artery in the lower part of arm, right? In addition to the median nerve, brachial artery is covered by the bicipital aponeurosis and median cubital vein in the lower part of the arm. At this point, it is covered by the bicipital aponeurosis and median cubital vein. Talking about posterior relations of the artery, here is the radial nerve, which passes posterior to the brachial artery and enters the radial groove. This dotted part is indicating the course of radial nerve through the radial groove which lies on the posterior aspect of the humerus. So radial nerve lies on the posterior side of the brachial artery. In addition to the radial nerve, we have profunda brachii artery, which is the largest branch of the brachial artery, and the triceps brachii muscle on the posterior aspect of the brachial artery. Now talking about the medial relations of the artery, this one is the medial side of the artery. As you know, this is head of humerus, which lies on the medial side of arm. On the medial side, in the upper and lower part, we have the ulnar nerve throughout its extent. This one is the ulnar nerve, which lies on the medial side of the artery throughout its extent. In the lower part of the artery, in addition to the ulnar nerve, we have the median nerve, which is crossing the artery in the middle of the arm and comes on the medial side. In addition to the ulnar and median nerve, we also have the basilic vein on the medial side of brachial artery as well. We'll talk about these superficial and deep veins later on. Talking about the lateral relations of brachial artery, this side is the lateral medial side, and this side is the lateral side. As you can see, on the lateral side of the brachial artery, we have the biceps muscle. This one is the long head of bicep muscle. This is short head of biceps brachii muscle. In addition to that, we have the coracobrachialis muscle, this one on the lateral side of the brachial artery, and the upper part of the artery also has the median nerve on its lateral side. We have these three structures on the lateral side of the brachial artery: biceps brachii, coracobrachialis, and median nerve in its upper part. This is the triceps brachii muscle, which lies on the posterior aspect of brachial artery, and you can see this is the bicipital aponeurosis, which is covering the brachial artery anteriorly in its lower part. This one is the median nerve, which is initially on the lateral side of the brachial artery. In the middle of the arm, it is crossing it anteriorly and comes on its medial side. And this one is the ulnar nerve, which lies on the medial side of brachial artery throughout its extent. These were the relations of brachial artery in the arm. Now let us talk about the branches of brachial artery. Brachial artery has 5 branches in the arm. The first one is profunda brachii artery. Second one is humeral nutrient artery. Third one is superior ulnar collateral artery. Then comes inferior ulnar collateral artery. And the last, unnamed muscular branches to the muscles of the arm. Let us talk about these branches one by one. The first branch of the brachial artery is the profunda brachii artery, which is also known as deep brachial artery or deep artery of the arm. It is the largest branch of the brachial artery and it has the most superior origin. This is the origin point of the profunda brachii artery. This is the brachial artery which starts at the lower border of teres major muscle. Soon after its origin, the profunda brachii artery, this one, it turns backwards and passes through the radial groove which lies on the posterior aspect of the shaft of humerus. This dotted part of the profunda brachii is indicating its course on the posterior aspect of the humerus. It arises from the brachial artery, it then passes through the radial groove on the posterior aspect of the humerus. In the radial groove, profunda brachii artery, it accompanies the radial nerve which also passes through the radial groove on the posterior aspect of humerus. When it reaches near the lower end of humerus, this profunda brachii artery, it divides into 2 terminal branches. The first one being the radial collateral branch, the second one being the middle collateral branch. The radial collateral branch of the profunda brachii artery, this one, it comes anteriorly in front of the lateral epicondyle of humerus. Right here, this is the lateral epicondyle of humerus, this is the lateral side and this is the medial side. This radial collateral branch, it comes anteriorly in front of the lateral epicondyle of humerus and takes part in anastomosis around the elbow joint. This dotted one is the middle collateral branch of profunda brachii artery. The dotted appearance of this artery is indicating that it lies on the posterior aspect. It lies on the posterior side of the lateral epicondyle and takes part in anastomosis around the elbow joint. We'll talk about the anastomosis around elbow joint in our subsequent lectures. For now, just remember the names of the arteries that are taking part in this anastomosis. Right? So this one was the profunda brachii artery, the first and largest branch of the brachial artery which passes through the radial groove on the posterior aspect of the humerus. At this point, it is dividing into 2 terminal branches. The radial collateral branch which comes on the anterior side of the lateral epicondyle and the middle collateral branch which runs on the posterior aspect of lateral epicondyle of humerus. Both these arteries, they take part in anastomosis around the elbow joint. The second branch arising from the brachial artery is the humeral nutrient artery. This one, this small branch is termed as the humeral nutrient artery. It arises around the middle of the arm and enters the nutrient canal on the anteromedial surface of humerus. This artery runs distally in the canal towards the elbow. This is the nutrient artery of the humerus. The third branch which arises from the brachial artery is the superior ulnar collateral artery. This one. This superior ulnar collateral artery, it arises from the medial aspect of the brachial artery near the middle of the arm. It then runs downwards and accompanies the ulnar nerve just posterior to the medial epicondyle of humerus. It lies along with ulnar nerve on the posterior aspect of the medial epicondyle of humerus. On the posterior side of medial epicondyle, it also takes part in anastomosis around elbow joint. It anastomoses with the branches of ulnar artery and forms the periarticular anastomosis around elbow joint. The fourth branch which arises from the brachial artery is the inferior ulnar collateral artery. This one. This inferior ulnar collateral artery, it arises approximately 5 cm proximal to the elbow crease. This is the elbow crease. It arises 5 cm proximal to this point. It then passes inferomedially and comes on the anterior aspect of medial epicondyle. This inferior ulnar collateral artery, it also takes part in periarticular anastomosis of the elbow. This sign indicates the anastomosis between the two arteries. This one. Lastly, we have unnamed muscular branches of the brachial artery which are clearly seen in this image. These all are the unnamed muscular branches of the brachial artery which are supplying muscles of the arm. The small one, these are the unnamed muscular branches of the brachial artery. That was all about the course, origin, relations and branches of brachial artery. Now let's talk about the clinicals related to the brachial artery. In clinicals, we have the location of brachial pulse. Location of brachial pulse is very important because brachial artery is used in measuring the blood pressure. So you must know how to locate or how to palpate the brachial artery in the arm and what is the site for palpation of brachial artery. And the second one is Volkmann ischemic contracture. We'll talk about the palpation of brachial artery first of all. For the palpation of brachial artery or for taking the brachial pulse, we ask the patient to flex his elbow slightly like this, and with the help of thumb or the first two fingers of your opposite hand, you can palpate the artery just medial to the bicep tendon. When we slightly flex our elbow, the bicep tendon becomes prominent, and just medial to this bicep tendon, we can easily palpate the brachial pulse. Here is another image indicating the site of brachial artery and the site at which you can palpate the brachial artery. This is the tendon of bicep muscle, and just medial to this tendon we have brachial artery. We can easily palpate the brachial artery at this point. Brachial artery is used for measuring the blood pressure. The second important clinical related to the brachial artery is Volkmann's ischemic contracture. You need to know its definition, causes or conditions that lead to this contracture, its pathophysiology and treatment. Let's discuss the Volkmann ischemic contracture in detail. As you know, the word ischemia means the loss of blood supply and contracture is the deformity. So Volkmann ischemic contracture is a condition which is characterized by ischemic necrosis of structures in the forearm when there is injury of the brachial artery or when the brachial artery is occluded. It leads to ischemia of the muscles of forearm and hand. Prolonged ischemia leads to the necrosis of these structures, which leads to subsequent crippling contractures associated with varying degrees of neurological deficit. In severe cases, there is ischemia of the nerves of forearm as well, and we have neurological deficit in the forearm and hand as well. Or you may also define the Volkmann ischemic contracture as it is a permanent shortening of the forearm muscles resulting from injury to the brachial artery that gives rise to a claw-like deformity of hand, wrist and fingers. Do not confuse the Volkmann ischemic contracture with the ulnar claw hand. Ulnar claw hand is caused by the lesion of the ulnar nerve due to fracture of the medial epicondyle, while in the Volkmann ischemic contracture there is necrosis of the muscles of forearm and hand, which leads to claw-like deformity of the hand. In this condition, the hand resembles a claw. Do not confuse this with the ulnar claw hand. Now, what are the causes which leads to Volkmann ischemic contracture? This is an image showing compartments of the arm. These are the intermuscular septa which separate the anterior compartment of arm from the posterior compartment, and this is the brachial artery which lies in the anterior compartment of arm. Any condition which leads to decreased compartment size or the conditions which increase the compartment content, they cause compression of the brachial artery in the anterior compartment. These causes include prolonged external compression due to tight casts or tight dressing. This external compression, it decreases the space within the anterior compartment. Due to this decreased space, there is indirect pressure or occlusion of the brachial artery. In addition to that, the conditions which causes internal bleeding within the compartment also decrease the space in the anterior compartment and causes the occlusion of brachial artery. Fractures of the humerus, mainly the supracondylar fracture of humerus. In supracondylar fracture of humerus, the brachial artery may get damaged or lacerated, which leads to the ischemia of the muscles of forearm. Other causes include burns, trauma, infections or snake bites. All these conditions, they decrease the space within the anterior compartment and causes indirect pressure on the brachial artery. Now let us discuss what is the pathophysiology of the Volkmann ischemic contracture, how the ischemia leads to formation of contractures. In cases of gradual occlusion, gradual, temporary and partial occlusion of brachial artery, blood flow to the forearm and hand is maintained to some degree through the periarticular anastomosis around the elbow joint. But if the occlusion is complete, if brachial artery is occluded completely and suddenly, then this periarticular anastomosis around the elbow joint is unable to maintain the blood flow to the muscles of forearm and hand. This sudden occlusion of brachial artery, it creates a surgical emergency. The muscles can bear ischemia for up to 6 hours. If the external constriction is applied, increased arterial pressure or occlusion, it causes muscle ischemia, but the muscles can bear ischemia for up to 6 hours. Prolonged ischemia leads to the muscle necrosis, death of the muscle tissue. The muscles are then replaced by the collagen. These muscles, they also adhere to the surrounding structures. The muscle length and the tendon length is shortened and fixed. This shortening of the muscle and tendon, they also cause the overall shortening of the limb and stiffness of the muscles and joints, and the contracture develops. There is flexion at the elbow, wrist and all the fingers. In severe cases, peripheral nerves are also involved due to ischemia or compression. This is a typical picture of Volkmann ischemic contracture. As you can see, due to ischemia of the muscles, there is wasting of the muscles, muscle mass is decreased, muscle length and tendon is also decreased, there is shortening of the limb, there is flexion at the elbow and wrist. The metacarpophalangeal joints, these are the metacarpophalangeal joints, they are extended, but all the fingers are flexed at the interphalangeal joints. This is a typical picture of the Volkmann ischemic contracture due to the muscle necrosis, and muscle necrosis is in turn due to the laceration of brachial artery or the occlusion of brachial artery. The treatment options for the Volkmann ischemic contracture include the first of all, we remove the underlying cause which is causing the compression of the brachial artery. Like if the compression of brachial artery is due to the tight dressings, plaster casts, we can remove the tight dressings, split the plaster cast and elevate the limb of the patient. These can improve the compression on the brachial artery to some extent. In addition to that, we can give the analgesics or the painkillers to the patients to relieve the pain of the patient. In addition to that, emergency fasciotomy is done for releasing the compression on the brachial artery. Fasciotomy is a procedure, it is an incision given in the deep fascia of the arm. When the incision is given in the deep fascia of the arm, the pressure in the compartment is released to some extent. The pressure within the compartment and indirect pressure to the brachial artery is released by cutting the deep fascia in that region. Emergency fasciotomy prevent the further progression of ischemia to the Volkmann's contracture. In addition to that, after 3 months following the injury, we can do the reconstructive surgeries in which the fibrotic muscles are excised, tendon lengthening can be done, etc. This was all about the Volkmann ischemic contracture and the brachial artery. Now let us talk about the veins of the arm. There are two sets of veins in the arm. These are the superficial veins and the deep veins. The superficial veins are those that travel in the subcutaneous tissue, and the deep veins are those which accompany the arteries of the arm. Both sets of veins have valves, but they are more numerous in the deep veins than in the superficial veins. Superficial veins of the arm include the basilic vein and the cephalic vein, while deep veins of the arm are the brachial veins which accompany the brachial artery. Let us talk about these veins and their drainage one by one. We have dorsal venous arch, a network of veins, superficial veins on the dorsum of our hand. From the lateral end of this dorsal venous arch, there ascends a vein which is known as the cephalic vein. The cephalic vein runs in the subcutaneous tissue and ascends in the subcutaneous tissue of lateral aspect of forearm and arm. This lateral vein of the arm, which you can see here, is the cephalic vein. This superficial vein of the arm, it drains into the axillary vein. This is the axillary vein, right? Cephalic vein lies on the lateral aspect of the forearm and arm and is drained into the axillary vein. We have another superficial vein in the arm termed as the basilic vein. This basilic vein, it lies, or it is formed from the medial end of the dorsal venous arch of the hand. It ascends medially, it ascends in the subcutaneous tissue of the medial aspect of forearm and arm, like this. This basilic vein, it joins the brachial veins. These two are the brachial veins which accompany the brachial artery in the arm. This basilic vein joins the brachial vein at the lower border of teres major muscle and becomes the axillary vein. This one. As you already know, axillary vein is formed by the union of these brachial veins and the basilic vein at the lower border of teres major muscle and forms the axillary vein. Brachial veins are the deep veins which accompany the brachial artery, while basilic vein and the cephalic vein, they are the superficial veins which run in the subcutaneous tissue of the arm. Here is an image showing the deep veins of the forearm and arm. We have two deep veins for each set of artery. As you can see here, we have two radial veins for the radial artery. We have two ulnar veins which accompany the ulnar artery, and we have two brachial veins which accompany the brachial artery. Now let us discuss the formation of the brachial vein and its drainage. As you can see here, the brachial vein, it begins at the bend of the elbow, or it begins opposite the neck of the radius, at the level of neck of the radius. Brachial vein is formed by the union of radial veins and ulnar veins which accompany their corresponding arteries. These two veins, these two sets of veins, radial veins and ulnar veins, they unite to form the brachial vein at the level of neck of radius. This brachial vein then accompanies the brachial artery in the arm. At the level of lower border of teres major muscle, basilic vein, which is the superficial vein on the medial side of the arm, this superficial basilic vein, it joins the brachial vein and forms the axillary vein, this one. We have radial veins and ulnar veins, which are the deep veins of the forearm. These unite at the level of bend of elbow to form the brachial vein, which is the deep vein of the arm. This deep vein, it joins or it unites with the basilic vein, which is the superficial vein of the arm. These two join at the lower border of teres major muscle and form the axillary vein, this one. This axillary vein receives the drainage of cephalic vein, this one, cephalic vein, which comes from the lateral aspect of the forearm and arm. It drains into the axillary vein. This axillary vein at the outer border of first rib or beyond the outer border of first rib, it then continues as the subclavian vein, this one. That was all about the deep veins and the superficial veins of the arm. We'll talk about the superficial veins, their formation, their tributaries and drainage in quite detail in the hand. For now, you just need to remember their names and their drainage in the arm. You don't need to know their drainage in the forearm and hand. We'll talk about this in detail when we'll do the hand and forearm, right? That was all about today's lecture.